Hey y'all, I'm Niccara, and welcome to another episode of But Make It Books, a podcast where we are bookishly healing through life. Come on y'all, let's go healing. All right, hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of But Make It Books, a bookishly healing podcast where we are trying to heal through this thing called life. I'm Niccara, your host in all things, and I'm so blessed and fortunate to be in the space and place with Kristina Forest. Hey!
Hi, thank you for having me.
So before we start, this is like things we like to do on our pod. How you feeling?
I know, I was just telling you that I feel tired. But otherwise, I feel okay. I don't know if it's because it's like hot today. I'm in Jersey City. You said you were in New York. So like we're experiencing the same weather right now. It's been the first few days of this week have been cold and rainy, and I was complaining, like, what kind of June weather is this? And then today it was hot, and I was like, oh, it's so hot. I feel so exhausted. But I'm trying to remind myself to be grateful that it's warm outside.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I feel good. How about you?
Honestly, besides the world imploding,
Yeah. Hmm.
it's nice to be in New York. I do miss the city. It's chaotic
Hmm.
as heck.
Hmm.
As everyone knows who has been in around New York, but it's something energizing about the city. I was telling my girlfriends, I was like, I love taking the subway because it's such a equalizer.
Yeah, that's
Everybody
true.
takes the subway, no matter whatever class or creed.
Hmm.
Everyone's taking the subway because it's the quickest way to go. And I just
Yeah.
love doing it. Like
Hmm.
so cheap compared to DC. $2.70 compared to
Mm.
my $15 that I spend on the metro, sometimes more.
Wait, like weekly?
No, not weekly. That's a day.
$16 a day on the DC Metro?
So if you're going into Maryland, it costs way more and they pay you have to pay when you walk in and when you walk out. You know how like in New York you just pay one fee?
Yeah.
No, you gotta pay when is clocked by how far you go, where you're going.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't great being an intern.
I'm sure. Like,
Like even now, like I personally don't take it anymore.
hmm.
I try to drive as much as I can because honestly, it's the same price.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's bad. Yeah, highly do not recommend.
Wow. I know we've been sitting here complaining that they keep raising like it
You
to,
guys are
290.
fortunate. You guys got paths. We don't even have that. Like there
Mm-hmm.
is really no way to like we have the Mart, which is $5, but
Yeah.
it's not that many stops along the way.
Yeah.
You stop in DC and it's one stop in DC. It's not like multiple stops in DC. It's one
Mm.
stop in DC.
I did not know that. That's
Yeah, you
crazy.
guys are fortunate. So count your blessings.
You know what? That's true. That is very true.
You never know what you're dealing with until you hear from
Yeah,
somebody
hear
else.
from
But
other
yeah,
people. Yeah.
we don't have that. So you guys are blessed.
Okay.
So the other thing we like to do is a snowball, which is our form of an icebreaker because I'm
Okay.
from Baltimore. So we have our
Oh, okay.
snowball. So I'm being a Cree because I like to be a Cree. My icebreaker snowball for you is what is your favorite Sarah Dessen novel?
This lullaby.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Mine's is Just Listen.
Oh, I would say if I had to rank top three, actually, I don't think Just Listen would be in it, but it's up there. I would say This Lullaby, The Truth About Forever, and Someone Like You. Those are my three favorites.
When I saw that you also enjoy Sarah Dessen, I was just like,
Yeah.
wow, I also grew up with Sarah Dessen.
Yes.
Her and Meg Cabot got me
Y-
through.
hmm.
They got me
Hmm.
through.
Yes.
Oof, they could really speak to the very teenage soul.
I absolutely 1,000% agree for sure.
Sarah Dessen is a North Carolinian treasure. She should be protected at all costs.
That's very true.
So let me just get into your bio. So Kristina Forest is the U.S. Today best-selling author of romance books for adults and teens. She earned her MFA in creative writing at the New School, and she lives in New Jersey, which you guys heard before, where she can often be found rearranging her bookshelf, just like me. So you've mentioned that you're constantly trying to write books that you wish you had as a young Black teenager. Can you tell us about
Mhm.
your formative experience and how it shaped your mission as a writer today?
Yeah, so like we were talking about, I was a huge Sarah Dessen fan when I was in high school. I wasn't a big reader in middle school. I don't know why. I would read sometimes, but in high school, I started to read a lot, and Sarah Dessen was someone that I started reading. I always was a big lover of romance, so I just started looking up YA romance books on Goodreads, which was around back then. Maybe a little less toxic, but it was around back then. And her books were recommended to me. And so I read this lullaby first, and then I went and read some of her other books and continued to be a fan. And as I was reading her books, I just kept thinking, I love these kinds of stories. I wish that I could read stories like this featuring Black characters, characters who look like me, who look like my friends. Um, and like really, it sparked my desire to be a writer. I was a huge Sarah Dessen fan. I would read her blog. She used to have this blog. Do you remember the blog she used to have? Yes, and I used to read it on Fridays, and I knew that she was like a professor, I want to say, at UNC or something. And so that became my dream. I was like, I want to be an author and I want to teach English or something. That I just thought I saw her do it and I was like, okay, that seems like a good path. But of course, I want to write Black characters. And that just sort of stuck with me. I majored in writing when I was in undergrad. And then when I was in before I graduated, I had a few writing professors encourage me to apply for my MFA, which is I moved to New York City to get my MFA in creative writing. And there was just always my North Star goal was to write those kinds of books. And, of course, my goals have evolved since then because I'm sort of phasing out of the YA books that I was writing. But I just really wanted to write the stories that I wish I had as a teenager. And now that my most likely, Heartsick is most likely going to be my last YA that comes out in October, I feel like I can look back and feel really proud that I did what I had set out to do initially, which was to write those stories and to get them out into the world.
Why do you think you want to start writing YA?
It just something happened when I turned 30. Like mentally, I was like, I think I'm done writing about teenagers. I feel honestly, what happened was I wrote Zyla and Kai, which is my third YA novel, and I just kind of put everything that I had ever wanted to see. That it was the kind of story that I had been working toward, that I had always wanted to write, and it had all of these quintessential firsts that teenagers experience, and it was inspired by all the different feels that I had, when I was a teenager, and you like somebody for the first time, the first boyfriend that you had, and just all of those experiences. It was not to say it's autobiographical because it wasn't, but a lot of that book was inspired by my own life, and I I found that after I finished Zyla and Kai, I was like, I don't know if I have anything more to say for teenagers. I really just felt like I got it all out there and I was ready to write stories about women my own age. And but I had a two-book deal for Zyla and Kai. So I had to write another YA novel. And but the issue that I faced was that because Zyla and Kai to me felt like the oh what's the phrase where it's like the magnum opus or whatever. It felt
Oh,
like
like your I forget the word.
yeah, like my big
No,
one. That's what it
yeah, like
felt like for
your yeah.
yeah, of my YA books. That's what Zyla and Kai felt like to me. And I really struggled to find an idea after that I felt I had an a similar or stronger emotional connection. And I kept coming up with ideas and I kept trying to write them and it just was not working. But in the meantime, I was working on the Greene Sisters series and my characters that I'm writing in those series, I was the same age as those characters when I was writing those books, or like maybe a year or two off.
Right.
Um, and I felt it was so cathartic to be writing about women in their mid to late 20s and then early 30s. Um, and I just knew creatively that that's the space that I wanted to be in and I wanted to stay there. And then, of course, I had to fulfill my contract. So finally, Heartsick was an idea that had been like sort of brewing in the back of my mind. And then I didn't tell anybody that I was writing it because I felt like we had a few ideas crash and burn. And I didn't want the pressure of my editor knowing what I was working on. So I just wrote out a synopsis. Then I wrote about 40 pages. And when I felt like it was something I wanted to do, then I shared it with her and with my editor and my agent. And they were like, "Oh, we really like this." And so I was like, "Okay, cool." Um, and that book was just pure fun. It was the most fun time I've had writing a book. And it feels like if this is going to be the last one, then I'm going out with a bang because it's a little different. It's got like a speculative twist, a little bit of mystery to it. But yeah, just like from a creative perspective, I do feel like I've done the things that I've wanted to do in that space, and I'm ready to, give all of my energy to the the art that I've been creating in the adult space.
No, that's fair. Do you ever think that you'll take the YA characters and grow them up? Like the future, like this is
Um, I have not thought of that. I guess when my books end, that's usually, unless it's a part of a series,
right.
all my YAs are standalone. So I know what happens to them in the future, but I don't want to write it, because that just feels like my own. I don't know. Once I'm finished with the book, I feel pretty solid about where I left the
Mm,
characters.
that's good. In your adult romance, so let's talk about that. The
Mhm.
neighbor favor, the partner plot, love lyric.
Mhm.
How do you intentionally craft Black love stories that serve as resources of healing and affirmation for us, your readers?
Yeah, I think that my intention is always, it's the same. I'm writing the books that I want to read,
Hmm.
and I just the tone of my whole brand and of I guess maybe who I am as a person is that I like to read and I like to write stories that feel warm and hopeful. And they, some of the characters go through some serious things and have different things in their past that they're trying to work through or they're present. But my goal with all of my books is to create a safe space for readers to feel happy and to feel all the feels. And my goal is always when someone is done reading my book, they feel like they've been given a hug. And I think we absolutely, especially Black women, need that kind of art right now. But we always do. And I think all readers need that. And so that's always my intention. I think that romance is, especially for Black women, because I feel like a lot of the time we are made to feel like we aren't included in the conversation or and especially online a lot that we complain too much or like we're asking for too much in our
Or asking for too
relationships
much,
and
yeah,
it's
our
like
standards are
no.
too high.
Exactly. And it's like, no, we ask for these things because we deserve them. And, all romance is a bit aspirational to a degree, but it's inspired by real life. We deserve to have partners who respect us and love us and treat us well and support us. Um, and so that's always what I'm intentionally trying to write as well, to give people hope that you don't have to settle for somebody who does not treat you right.
Mm, that's, whew. So, fun fact, your romance neighbor favor is my fiance's first delve into romance.
I am
I
honored.
gave him a couple choices and
Yeah.
I pulled them off my shelf because he's like, I want to read romance. He came to a romance book talk I did for Baltimore Book Fest.
Mhm.
And he's like, well, all the women are saying, and the men are saying, I need to read romance. So I want to read romance. And I said, okay, so you have these choices. Here's your choices. And he picked neighbor favor.
Oh, wow. I'm so
Uh,
glad to hear that. I think it's always so sweet when I meet couples who come to my events because they say that they read the books together. I'm like, that is so adorable.
It is. It is. I told him, I said, listen, this is, and your book was at a perfect time. So I was like in a deep fantasy,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
fantasy, romantasy realm. I had no
Yeah.
idea that Nick was a,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, a fantasy writer. And I said,
Yeah.
wait a minute, got this perfectly fitting in.
Yeah.
So really quick, I know this is going to be hard for you.
Mm.
Who's your favorite Green sister?
I don't I don't have one. I really genuinely love them all
Okay.
equally for different reasons. But what I always say is that Iris is the closest to me personality wise.
Okay. Okay. Violet's my favorite.
I get, you know what's funny is that of all the sisters, for a long time, I felt most protective of Violet because, she's the rambunctious middle sister
Yeah.
who sort of got like a chip on her shoulder. But I went to the Black Romance Book Festival 2 weeks
Yes, I was
ago.
gonna ask you about that.
Yes, and overwhelmingly, people were like, "Oh, Violet's my favorite," and I was like, that just made me so happy because I feel like she's the sister who, within their sisterhood, is the one who felt like she had no choice but to march to the beat of her own drum. And
Mhm.
she's just like embraces that about herself. And
Yes.
so I'm always so glad when people say
Listen, the
she's their
fashion
favorite.
show had me like, ew. I was like, okay. I was like, listen, all of it. I was like, this is my girl, okay? She had to go ahead and lie to the reporter. She's like, yeah, I got a man. I don't.
I
I'm
know, right?
gonna be
Like,
embarrassed. You're not gonna embarrass me while this man is
exactly.
elevating on Instagram with this girl that I used to dress. Absolutely not. I felt her in my spirit. So
Well, I'm so glad. That makes me so happy.
I love them all. They all remind me of people in my life.
Mm,
Violet feels very much aligned with me. I always felt like I always had to march my own, beat my own drum, like very
yeah.
much like don't fit in all the time.
Mm,
And Violet, I think, just speaks to probably a lot of us who
yeah.
are very bookish, who aren't introverts. So
Yeah. Yeah.
she's chef's kiss. Uh,
Thank you.
So you also, I'm going back to YA a little bit. You noted
Mhm.
that the lack of Black representation in YA romance during the 90s and the early 2000s. How has that changed? And what healing potential do you see in current wave of like diverse
Mm.
YA now?
So, to be completely honest with you, I have not really had my finger on the pulse of YA over the last 3 years. But this morning I just started reading a really, really sweet Black YA romance, and it's called. Wait, I have the tab open. Give me a second. It's called "It's You Every Time" by Charlene Thomas,
Oh, I've
and
heard.
it's a book about a girl who she keeps reliving the same day over and over, and she keeps meeting this boy, and they fall in love, and then that she's like repeating, sort of like a Groundhog Day kind of thing. But I started reading that this morning. I was like, this is so adorable. And early over the weekend, I finished reading Audrey and Bash Are Just Friends by Tia Williams, and that was so good.
Can't wait.
It's
Can't
so
wait.
sweet. Like all the things you love about Tia's books,
Mhm.
she's like, made it for YA audience. And there is absolutely more Black YA romance on shelves now than even it was in 2019 when I Want to Be Where You Are came out. It was me and it was Justin Reynolds and his book, which now I'm gonna blank on the title. I cannot remember what his book is
20
called.
seconds from now.
No, it was the one
That's
that came out
you.
before that. Oh God, I'm gonna hate myself when I listen to this back. But he also had a book that came out this year, and I want to say it was just the two of us with
Mhm.
Black contemporary YA romance. And there's absolutely more now. There needs to be even more. I think that Kidlit, which includes YA, is leading the charge overall across publishing in terms of being conscious about diversity and acquiring diversity. I think that there absolutely needs to be more support put behind those books once they are acquired, in order to get them out into the world and in front of as many eyes. So I think it's just an ever growing conversation that needs to continue to be had about not only acquiring these books, but making sure that they are getting the support that they need in order for those books to then go on to be successful.
Mm. Do you, in terms of the diversity of YA
Hmm.
and what you're talking about being successful and that
Hmm.
diverse charge that they're leading, in terms of impacting the future in kids, do you think
Hmm.
that leads to more healed adults essentially?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that if I were a teenager now,
Hmm.
and I got to see the amount of books. I think about Julia Goffney, whose books I love, and like Ebony Liddell, Elise Bryant, and now I'm gonna Liara Tamani, Ashley Woodfolk. There's so many Black authors writing Black YA romance now, or who have in the past couple of years. If I had those books when I was in high school, I still think I would have ended up where I am now. It would have given me more, more fuel to be like, this is what I want to do. Um, I think it's important for, we always talk about mirrors and windows, right? Like you read a book that's a window into someone else's life, but it's also deeply important for there to be mirrors. And that's just like, I mean, I'm sure you feel it now, the way you feel if you read, like I was just talking about Tia Williams, right? When I read 7 Days in June, I was like, I've been
Ooh,
waiting for this my whole life. You know what I mean?
a love
Like
song for Ricky Wiley had me tearing up. I was
It's right.
crying. I
It's
was
like when you,
crying.
yeah, and it's like when you read those books, and there's so many of my Black romance for adult peers. When I read their books, I'm like, gosh, like I'm so glad that I read this because like I feel it. I feel this character. Our lives are so different, but like another author who I think about a lot is Danielle Allen, who wrote Curvy Girl Summer. I read that and
Listen.
I felt like I was talking to my best friend. It was so conversational, and it's just like, when you get to read those books where you feel like you are reading about a character who you could meet like in your everyday spaces and places that you go, it's just so essential. So if I were to have that as a teenager, it would have been, invaluable then.
Yeah, I think about that now. I look back at all the YA books I read, and I had very few
Hmm.
where there were Black women characters. And
Yeah.
to be loved out loud at such a young age would
Hmm.
be so impactful. Like even watching Forever on Netflix,
Yeah.
like I wish I was able to see like this Black
Yeah.
girl be messy and not
Hmm.
perfect and have braids and do the things and just live it and be in private school because I was in private school at that time too,
Okay. Yeah.
just like being herself is a lot. And it's sad
Hmm.
that now that Black girl on the show was dealing with the same things, not the sexual parts, but like dealing with like being a Black girl one of one
Hmm.
in a space.
Hmm.
That's hard. That's hard.
It is hard. And like you're saying, because I'm like trying to think what TV shows, because I was in high school from 2006 to 2010. So I'm like, were there TV shows where,
Moesha maybe, but everybody was Black.
yeah, but then like, and then even like Moesha, that was reruns by the time,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
and so I'm like, almost That's So Raven. But
Yeah, I
even
was
then,
gonna say
it
that's
was
so
like,
Raven.
that was like the only one. But even then, she was sort of like ending by the time I was like a
Oh,
real
one on
teen.
one.
One-on-one's true.
Yeah,
That's
one on
true.
one. That's I think that's it.
Yeah, that's like it. And then even then it was about her and her dad. It
Yeah.
wasn't just about her and her life. And
Yeah, in high
so
school. Yeah.
like you're saying, if I watched Forever in high school, it just would have made,
Hmm.
so I'm glad that that art is available now though,
Yeah, me too.
so
Save
yeah.
the kids.
Yeah.
So I know themes often crystallize during the drafting process rather than being planned out. Can you talk about how you discover what your characters need to heal or discover about themselves when you're going in? Like, what
Yeah,
that work?
I do a ton of character work before I start a draft because for me, character informs plot.
Mhm.
And so because I like to to the best of my ability before I start a draft, I like to get to a point where I could drop my character in the book and know what they would do in any given situation. Ultimately, that always changes because I haven't started writing the book yet and they change and evolve as it goes. But by the end of the book, I want to feel like I know the character like the back of my hand. And a lot of that healing and or something that in romance we use this phrase called a wound, a character's wound, because where they start the book with a wound that needs to be healed. And what is that wound? How do they go about healing it throughout the book? What does the love interest give them in order to help them heal? That's all work that I do ahead of time. And it really depends. Each book varies. Like okay, so I'll go back to the love lyric, or no, I'll start with Heartsick. So because that's like the most recent one. Sorry, with the way that
I
books.
know you got you literally came out with one lyric and then you said, "Yeah, I'm going to write heart." Like,
Oh my God, I know.
All right.
I'm like, what was the book? So I'll say Heartsick because that's the next one. So when I was doing the character work for that, I started with Margot, who was the main character, and my process is, okay, what is her internal goal, or so what's her external goal? What is she trying to get on surface level, and also what's her internal goal, and then what is keeping her from both of those things, and that often ties back to whatever her wound is. And so her external goal is that she wants to go to college and major in journalism, and also she wants to expose this company who they've created this pill that's supposed to cure heartbreak overnight, but actually they're hiding this really big secret that the pill is bad for you. So she has that goal to expose them, but internally she wants to be able to prove herself to her parents, who don't think that majoring in journalism is a viable career anymore, because journalism they're like, print journalism is dying, blah blah blah. But she's like, no, I'm a truth teller, they're important. She's 17, she's got all these different ideas. And also she and her ex-boyfriend Isaac, who's the other main character in the book, they've broken up. And the reason that they broke up is because they realized that they have very different ideas about what their future is going to look like after they graduate. And so her internal desire is to come to some sort of understanding about their breakup. And ultimately her wound is from that breakup, and feeling like, oh, maybe, like, he didn't believe in me, my parents didn't believe in me, but I have to try to believe in myself. And then but I usually start with the woman, and then I form the guy. I match him up to her.
Right.
And so I usually end up starting with those themes first, and then I do a big plot arc and huge synopsis, all this different stuff. Because the stage of my career that I'm at now, it's usually like I have to provide a synopsis to my team so they know what I'm working on, which
Fair.
At first I was like, oh, because I really do like to let my G's move in silence like lasagna. I say that to myself all the time, because to me, I create the best in silence where nobody knows. But it's a business, and I want people to have the confidence that I am working on something. And so I have to, create those summaries and synopses, but they end up being so helpful because I create them and I have like the whole story in my head, even though things are subject to change, and I send it off, I get the okay, and then I get left alone for months. And I could just work in silence. And sometimes I'll give like an update, like, yeah, I'm still going to make the deadline or whatever. And yeah, I have like a really rigorous drafting and revising process that is like drives me nuts. But then I hand in the book.
That's really cool. I never thought of like I like that idea, and I think that'll help a lot of people who are thinking about writing, or how you're thinking about your process, which makes a lot of sense because I feel like your characters maneuver really well in situations. It's like,
Thank
what are they doing? What they doing? What's happening next? Okay, all right, we here. All right. So y'all just met in the elevator. Cool. All right, cool. I don't know how how these two people in this building work out, but how they end up being in their little love story, but it all makes sense. And I'm like, okay,
Thank you.
I love. So you did bring up publishing in the
Mhm.
business. I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, I just feel like there's a massive resurgence. There's always been an underbase of like everyone loving Black romance, but I think there is a
Mm,
high intention now drawn to Black romance. Shout out to Black Romance Fest because I think that also catapulted it in a way, even though it was just like 2 weeks ago. I
mm.
think that a lot of folks business wise are looking like, oh, this is
As they should, yeah.
yeah, that this is
Hmm.
business. Can you talk about how you maintain hope and just continue writing these stories and like what you believe that you provide to this space?
Yeah. It's kind of like I have no choice because this is what I want to do. I don't want to write anything else.
Yeah.
I really don't. I sometimes think about subgenres of romance, like maybe some sci-fi stuff, but like I just love romance. I've always loved it, and that's all I want to do. I just want to write these stories, and I'm gonna keep writing about Black people. Like, as I'm just gonna keep doing it. And I've literally never wanted to do anything else. And so it's like, regardless of whatever is happening in the industry, this is what I do. I have to stay. I've never considered writing anything else other than romance between two Black people. So I'm just kind of
Yeah.
like, it's just what I feel is like my purpose, my creative purpose is to do that. And so from that end of things, it's like no matter what's trendy or what's going on or the ebbs and flows of the industry, it's what I've been doing since the beginning of my career. I'm just going to keep doing it. And in terms of like how to remain hopeful, I think that it's important because I used to work in publishing. So I think that honestly, that has a lot to do with how level-headed I'm able to stay
Mhm.
is because when I moved to New York for grad school, I wanted to know how the sausage was made. So I applied to a bunch of internships and I got some, and then those internships led to full-time jobs because I was very realistic. I was like, to stay in New York City, I need a job.
Need a job, a job.
Right. Exactly. And I need health insurance. And so that's what I did. I worked in publishing and I was there for about 6 or 7 years before I started writing full time. And just knowing the ins and outs and how to have certain conversations and what to worry about, what not to worry about, it really, really keeps me very level headed.
Mhm.
When I see different discussions happening online, sometimes things are discouraging. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend I haven't had setbacks in my career. But all I can do is write the best book that I can write. And I know that somebody out there is gonna hopefully want that kind of story, because I know I'm in a space right now where I am a part of the audience that I'm writing for. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I know I want this kind of book. So hopefully there's like other people out there who want it too. And I think that knowing your why is what can keep you going in times of distress,
Mhm.
ups and downs, what have you. Because if you're writing or creating from here,
Yeah.
it's going to hurt if the book doesn't do the way you do as well as how you want it to, but it's not going to, if you love it, then it makes it a little bit easier to keep going if you love what you do and you're coming at it from the right perspective.
I love that because sometimes when you do this work and maybe the first book doesn't do as well,
Yeah.
maybe the next one does, and then someone goes back and then picks
Yeah.
it up because they love the book they picked up so much.
Yeah.
And I think I love how all the Black romance writer girlies are like teaming up. You guys
Yeah.
are an inspiration. I love how you guys cheerlead each other on because
Hmm.
that helps other folks discover other works. That
Yes, for sure.
and so
Yeah.
y'all are doing it. I see y'all. We see y'all. We love it. So for the listeners who are on their own journey of love and self-discovery, what would you want them to know about the power of finding themselves through your work?
Mm. Well, I guess the power of knowing yourself gives you a sense of stability and groundedness.
Mhm.
And if you are a creative person, you're a writer,
Mhm.
you need that stability in this kind of career. And I think because I'm always grateful for my mom and my grandmother and the way that they raised me and the things that they instilled in me, because I've kind of like always have known who I am. For better or for worse, I've kind of always been like, I know who I am. I know the things that I want. I'm sure being a Capricorn has something to do with that as well.
Oh, yes, yes. Listen, I love my Capricorns. I'm a Scorpio, but I love my Capricorns.
Okay, yeah.
I'll keep me grounded.
Yeah, and so I feel like that is something that has it is, again, I know I keep using the word invaluable, but because and also like a very small fun fact is that I was raised in a town in New Jersey that was the first um, Black municipality established north of the Mason-Dixon line. And so growing up, our teachers were very supportive, and they really instilled in us to just be proud of who we were and where we came from. And having that as a child and to be able to take that out into the world with me is like so a huge reason as to why I've been able to move through my life the way that I have. And because I've had those like unshakable foundations in knowing who I am, that has made it so, honestly, like, when things go wrong or you don't get the things that you want, I'm always just kind of like, I wrote the best book that I could. I tried my best.
Mhm.
And if my book doesn't get highlighted for this certain thing or whatever, it's subjective. Art is subjective, and I don't have to take it personally. Um, and I know that there's like, it's not a me problem, I guess. And I feel like when you get to that point, if you try to work to know who you are, then when you're creating that art, you feel a little, because you can feel kind of like you're just
Yeah.
blowing in the wind,
Yeah.
but like if you get that foundation, then it's kind of like things are blowing around you. And sometimes you're like, ow, that hurt. But like you can stay steady. And I don't even know if this is even sounding like advice,
No, it
but
does. You're doing the best you can with what you got. Okay. Mariah told us
exactly.
you're doing the best you can with what you got. So it does make
Exactly.
sense. You are making
Yeah.
sense. It's like no matter what is thrown at you, just be affirmed in what you're putting out.
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of just like, and another quote that I think about a lot is, I believe it was Ava DuVernay who said that she creates and she works on her art and works on it to the point where she loves it. She feels satisfied with it herself. So that way, when it goes out into the world, she's not affected by how it is received because she knows that she did her best with it. And that is what I strive for with all of my books too. Whether it's somebody likes it or they don't, it's okay. But I know that I really like it or I love it and I did my absolute best with it. And so I think that that is the advice that I give to other writers is just try to get it to the point where you believe it's your best and you've tried your best. And so that way, when it's out in the world, you won't lose that feeling that you had, that you know that you did your best.
I love that. So, last question. Is there something that you wish people would ask you whenever you do interviews? Is there a question you wish people asked you?
um, oh,
That was a curveball. I like to throw it at the end.
you know what I do? That's like if you're in a job interview and you're like, is there anything that you wish I would have like answered better?
And
Yeah.
no.
That is a really good question. No, like I don't know. Of course, later I'm gonna be like, oh,
Right,
I
you're
should
like,
have said that. Um, I I guess no. No, I don't think so. I can't think of anything right now.
okay,
Yeah.
cool. So, where can the people find you? And we know Heartsick is coming out. So, tell us all the things.
Okay, so my next YA novel, Heartsick, will be out on October 7th, and that is currently available for pre-order. You can find me on Instagram at Kristina Forest underscore, and I'm also on TikTok sometimes at Kristina Forest 1, and you can also find me on my website at KristinaForest.com.
Love it. Well, thank you for your time and your pen and your words. You have affirmed me and have healed me in a multitude of ways through your romance. And so I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for reading. I really, really appreciate that.
All right, y'all. That's another episode of But Make It Books. Of course, like, subscribe, review, all the things. We can only grow as much as you allow us. And always shop at Mahogany Books if you love Black stories, like we all do. And of course, y'all, keep bookishly healing.